Derby.
Now they move around the turn. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for 3.
It is in the center of the racetrack. Seattle Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, the quick they come in the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Flying hot. It's all hot. Smarty Jones is all out. And here's the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slow of 1970.
The Run for the Roses, the 146th running of the Kentucky Derby presented by Woodford Reserve, is now just 9 days away. Live from historic Churchill Downs, it's time for the Kentucky Derby Workout Show, presented by TwinSpires.com and the Twin Spires app. Under cloudy skies, temperatures are already in the mid to upper 70s, and the main track is rated as fast. Let's take a look at the headlines. Tampa Bay Derby winner King Guillermo popped from the starting gate and galloped 1.5 miles under the Twin Spires on Wednesday morning. The Tampa Bay Derby winner hasn't raced since finishing second in a division of the Arkansas Derby 4 months ago. Swiss Skydiver and Speech stretched their legs at Churchill on Wednesday morning as well. Swiss Skydiver returned to the Churchill main track after arriving the night before. She was joined by Kentucky Oaks contender Speech, who got her first look at her new surroundings. Local hero Art Collector arrived on the grounds Wednesday afternoon for trainer Tommy Drury. The Bluegrass and Ellis Park Derby winner is expected to train over the Churchill Downs main oval this morning at 7:30. Joe Christopher joining you just outside the Champions Lounge Gold Room here on the balcony at Churchill Downs, and coming out of the bullpen today in a high leverage situation from TwinSpires.com and Bet America. It's Scott Shapiro. And Scott, what is your lead up to this odd, to say the least, Kentucky Derby and Triple Crown season been like?
Yeah, Joe, great to join you. Been watching you guys the last few days doing an excellent job. I'm glad to be a part of the team. Been a little bit of a longer road to the Kentucky Derby than what we're used to, but real excited for the coming days and excited to see Art Collector on the track today.
Speaking of Art Collector, we're going to have a good view from this monitor here, Scott. Social distancing, of course, but the man that has a much better view, and he should because it's his job to evaluate workouts, gallops, jogs, etc., is Brandon Staubel, high atop Churchill Downs on the first floor, on the fourth floor. And Brandon, we get our first look back at Art Collector here at Churchill Downs, but he's a horse that we've been familiar with 4 months here on the grounds.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Great to be here. Another great day. Actually, a cooler day than yesterday and the day before. Low humidity this morning, so beautiful. The horses should be feeling great on track. You mentioned Art Collector. He was based here as a 2-year-old. We know he likes the track, and it'll be exciting for him to come back and make his first local appearance.
Looking very forward to that. Again, 7:30 to 7:45 is the time when the Oaks and Derby horses are out there, designated solo. The Derby horses with the yellow saddle towels, the Oaks horses with the pink saddle towels. Swiss Skydiver's Speech, two big names for the Oaks. Let's take a look at the top 20 Kentucky Derby points leaders. And Scott, there are some horses on this list that could potentially go in the Pate Mile. Tiz the Law, the headliner. Honore P coming in from Southern California. King Guillermo, etc. But on this first page, who catches your eye?
Well, obviously, Tiz the Law and Art Collector have been awesome as 3-year-olds so far. They catch my eye. Honore P, a horse I'm interested in despite losing last time at Santa Anita. Then you look to the bottom of the list, Joe, Max Player, Caracaro, horses that I think are very interesting, especially underneath at a price.
Word yesterday that Todd Pletcher may opt for the Jim Dandy with Dr. Post, so we'll see if we get news on that in the coming days. Second page, who catches your eye here?
I think Enforceable is interesting, Joe. We had a good year, good start to the year at Fairgrounds, now second off the layoff. Ran okay in the Bluegrass, didn't get the setup that he likes. Should be ready for a prime effort in this spot.
Hoping to have Jockey Anabiscuits joining us, the rider of Enforceable, live on the show in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's take a closer look at King Guillermo. And it's well documented that my other counterpart, Ed DeRosa, is against this horse because of the 4-month layoff. But you can't argue with how well this horse has been training at Churchill Downs. He's been here for several weeks now.
Yeah, he's been training well. I respect the opinion of the layoff being a concern, not overly bullish on this horse. but the talent is certainly there. Ran off the screen of the Tampa Bay Derby and then ran second to Nadal in Oaklawn.
This horse had a huge workout on Saturday, walked on Sunday, back to the track Monday, and we'll send it back to Brandon for his evaluations of King Guillermo from yesterday. Opening it up, Brandon, after he popped from the starting gate. First time he had done that in some time.
Yeah, I mentioned yesterday on the show, we saw the light go on in the gate, and it was just kind of thought maybe this is a mistake, what's going on here, and you don't really see it very often, but it's working for King Guillermo. He seems to be relishing himself out here, showing lots of energy, and I think the thing to keep an eye on with King Guillermo is that we're showing a lot of energy. They're squeezing on him a little bit. I want to see that and continue that on. If they back off a little bit, then that might be a red flag for me.
Unconventional approach to the Kentucky Derby from Juan Carlos Avila and his team. Let's find out his thoughts on King Guillermo's recent training.
I am very happy with the training of the workouts of my horse. Really is a very nice time, but it's easy, everyone. Very easy. And I like for that. And today, go to the gate because I have 4 months without gate, and it's perfect, everything. I am training at 88, 30 years in my country. I have only 2 years here, and I stay here. I am very happy. It's amazing for me, for my family. Everybody know me with this race. It's one dream.
Juan Carlos Avila, a champion trainer in Venezuela. He came here to the States in 2018, and certainly a conditioner that knows what he's doing unconventionally, but King Guillermo seems to be flourishing. A horse that had his first look at Churchill Downs yesterday was Rushy for trainer Michael McCarthy, who told Christina McManigal earlier this morning, Scott, the decision has not been made between the Pat Day Mile and the Kentucky Derby. Kind of sort of fits in the middle of those two races, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I could see why they're struggling to make a decision here. Ran a solid third in the Santa Anita Derby. Didn't really have any excuses finishing behind Honor AP and Authentic. Came back in the Bluegrass and was wide that day, chasing Art Collector and Swiss Skydiver. I thought maybe you could make an excuse for the wide trip, but it does seem potentially to be a couple of the top in the Kentucky Derby this year.
Now, Brandon, we're going to take a look at Rushy on the racetrack yesterday. He got a look at the Churchill Downs surroundings for the first time. Can you tell when a horse is kind of getting used to their surroundings? I mean, it's an acclimation process for sure.
Yeah, he came out after the special break yesterday, and pretty much from the time he walked out till he came back in front of me was a little bit, I don't want to say over energetic, but just kind of worked up a little bit. You could probably tell he was excited. Kind of see it throwing his head just a little bit to the side here. And maybe that's just him. We always talk about just getting to know the horses a little bit. First local look. So we'll see how he comes out today. But yeah, he showed a little bit of energy, kind of curious looking around. So we'll just keep an eye on him and see how he does. There's
a Rushy for trainer Michael McCarthy. Will be starting his first horse in the Kentucky Derby. Also has Speech, a top contender for the Kentucky Oaks. Another horse that is on the fence between the Derby and the Pat Day Mile is Attachment Rate, Scott. And Dale Romans has run in the Derby 10 times. He's from Louisville. He wants to run in the Derby every year if possible, but they're maybe leaning towards the Pat Day Mile. And this is a horse that's had some trouble trips, and he ran great last out in the Ellis Park Derby.
Yeah, he sure did, Joe. I thought for sure that he was somewhat more of a mile or mile and a 16th type, but last time in the Ellis Park Derby, no match for Art Collector, but finished well that day despite a wide trip. Maybe he can get the distance. I was suspect before, but a little bit more lenient on it now.
Let's take a look at Attachment Rate, who's been here on the grounds for Dale Romans. And Brandon, you have a lot of experience with this horse for Romans, dating back to at least the spring. Do you think he's on top of his game right now, at least training-wise?
Yeah, he's always shown talent. He's obviously showing talent in the races. It's the hardest part is trying to figure out where you want to go. And he worked 4 days ago. The work was fine. I think it's a little bit of a telltale sign that he doesn't have the towel on. Maybe that's one way that they're kind of leaning. But, I mean, no question the talent's there, but the lone win came at a one-turn mile. So they're probably just in between. You know, do we want to go? Do we want to not go?
There you see Attachment Rates from yesterday. And I do believe we have our guest guest, Adam Beschizza, with us. Scott, so we're going to send it down to the Gap area where Adam has a headset on and a microphone. And Adam, 7 different jockey to ride enforceable. Adam is going to be aboard for the first time. This is a deep closer, and Adam is a very, very strong finisher. So as you can see down by the Gap there, Adam getting the headset on. And Adam, thanks for joining us this morning, talking about enforceable. Like I mentioned, you're the 7 different rider. You're known as a very strong finisher. This is a deep closer. How did it come about for you to pick up this mount from Mark Casse?
Yeah, we learned a couple of weeks ago the jockey bookings, with all the pandemic issues with jockeys not being able to fly in, etc. And yeah, a couple of weeks ago, David Carroll and Mr. Casse gave me a call back up and said, congratulations, yeah, you got yourself a ride in the Kentucky Derby, which was great.
Adam, Scott Shapiro, thanks for joining us. The field size of the Kentucky Derby is obviously unique to American racing, but overseas, big fields are much more common. Have you competed in lots of large fields, and if so, how will that benefit you come next Saturday?
The Kentucky Derby is a very unique race, especially being on the dirt with the first 2 furlongs being a cavalry charge. Usually the bigger fields are on the turf in Europe, and obviously they race in a straight line as well. You know, down in Newmarket they have one of the biggest straights probably in the world. The 1.25 mile straight with the big handicaps can be, you know, somewhat, you know, you're looking at 25 plus runners. But you know, turf racing, as you know, is a lot more jump out the gate, sit, position, whereas the Derby for the first 2 furlongs is, as I probably repeat myself, is a cavalry charge, and you've got to have a horse that can position himself correctly.
Adam, Brandon Staubel here up on the 4th floor. Just wanted you to kind of touch on the fact that we see you breezing horses in the morning. What does it mean to you once you got into a big barn like the Mark Casse barn, known across the country to ship everywhere, and the hard work you put in for them to give you this opportunity?
Yeah, it's huge. I just want to thank Mr. Oaksey and Mr. Casse and obviously David Carroll for the opportunity. And I've ridden for the Casse barn, you know, on and off, and whenever I could for the 3 years I've been racing in America. But this opportunity is obviously the biggest one, and even for them so, and Mr. Oaksey as well. But I'm thrilled and honoured to be a part of the Derby and a part of their team riding in it.
Adam, Enforcible's a horse that wintered at the fairgrounds. He's got a lot of experience, 10 races under his belt. We're seeing some footage from him from earlier this morning, and he looks absolutely great. How much opportunity have you had to be on his back, and what kind of sense of confidence has he given you going into the race?
A lot, Joe, to be honest. Before he won his stake at the fairgrounds, I was actually breezing him before Julian won on him. So I've put the miles in on him, and I'm very well acquainted with him. He's a very simple horse to ride, very smooth, and yeah, I mean I've sort of learnt his niches, and obviously I've been watching him run from the beginning, so I don't think that should be an issue. But you know, moving forward into the Derby, it is a very special race, and you know, me and him will have to be on our A game. But yeah, me and him are very familiar.
Adam, it sounds like he's not the typical Tappet. He's not as temperamental. Is that true?
No, completely different. I mean, he's very calm in and out of the barn. Yeah, just a very straightforward gentleman of a horse. Yeah.
Adam, this is Brandon again. One more question here. I just wanted to you to touch on the way he's training up to the race. I've seen the last couple workouts. It looks like teaching him to kind of sit off, and they're not really putting so much speed, but you're focusing on the finishing. Is that true in the works?
Yeah, I mean, if you watch his races back, that's his natural running style anyway. He prefers to you know, get involved in the second half of the race. But yeah, I think he feels more comfortable when he has a target. He's more of a hunter, and you know, not the hunted.
Taking a look at the workout from the other day. what we can see in the fog, right? And enforceable on the outside. Adam, we thank you for joining us. This is your first bout in the Kentucky Derby. You've been here for a couple of years, leading rider at the fairgrounds in the past. And how does it feel to have a Kentucky Derby mount? But obviously this is a year like no other, so I'm sure you're going to try to make the most of this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was saying to my agent, you know, it's all that's happened in 2020, you know, something's great has come out of it. So I'm thrilled.
Thanks again for joining us, Adam. We wish you a safe trip, the best of trip, and best possible result. We will see you the course of the next week, and best of luck not only on Derby Day, but the entire Churchill meet.
Thank you, Joe.
Adam Biscuits, everybody. And as we take a look at the tractors renovating the track as we rapidly approach the training time for the Oaks and Derby runners, we want to let all of you know that we are going to be taking social media questions once again today. Look forward to some questions from all of you from around the world. Sonia joining in from Safety Bay, Australia. Mary Ellen from New York. Carol from Hot Springs, Arkansas, the home of Oaklawn Park. And Kimberly from Dallas, Texas. As we take a break, we look forward to seeing Swiss Skydiver, one of the major contenders for the Kentucky Oaks. She was on the racetrack for the first time yesterday, hoping to see her again today. Swiss Skydiver and a whole lot more coming up right after this short break.
With over 200 flavor notes to discover, every sip of Woodford Reserve bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
Back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show. Another nice morning here. Again, temperature in the mid to raising to the upper 70s, expected to be in the 90s here today. Fast main track, and again, about 13 minutes from now, the horses will be coming out onto the racetrack for the designated training time for the Oaks and Kentucky Derby contenders. Joe Christopher alongside Scott Shapiro, Brandon Staubel on the fourth floor looking down at the Oaks and Derby horses. And Scott, let's talk Oaks. I mean, it's a top-heavy race. Mentioned Swiss Skydiver, mentioned Speech. We should see them today. Gamine, she hasn't arrived yet, but that's the talk of this Oaks Derby for a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt the Bob Baffert training is wowed in all of her starts, but she's going to have her toughest task to date in this spot, Joe. Obviously, the Kentucky Oaks, she's going to have to deal with the likes of Swiss Skydiver early on, Speech, who's really moved forward nicely for the Mike McCarthy barn, and She Dares the Devil, and maybe Bonnie South for Brad Cox.
Yeah, Bonnie South could await Keeneland for her next start against Elders, or she could run in the Kentucky Oaks and that race with 4 weeks between the two. Donna Veloce is interesting. We've only seen her once this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Simon Callahan charge can move forward here in Kentucky. She's probably up against it a little bit, but definitely a talented filly.
Again, Swiss Skydiver, what a fantastic resume by Daredevil. Kenny McPeak, the trainer, has finished second in the Kentucky Oaks twice. We've got the notable wins there, Scott. The Alabama at 1.25 miles last time out, as impressive as any of them.
Yeah, no doubt was dominant in the Alabama. What's most impressive to me about Swiss Skydiver, Joe, is she's been able to run at 8 different venues, 8 different racetracks. She's 1 for 2 with a second here at Churchill Downs. She takes her game anywhere, and she's going to be one tough customer. I know Gamine maybe is wowed a little bit more, but don't discount Swiss Skydiver one bit.
On the brink of becoming the 8th millionaire trained by Kenny McPeak. She's about $50,000 short. And this is a horse, Brandon, that's used to these surroundings. She's back here after that very productive trip to Saratoga. And again, she just had a recent race, so Kenny doesn't need to do too much with her leading into the Oaks.
Yeah, coming off the van from New York, I didn't think they'd do a ton with her. They actually did more with her yesterday than I thought they would do, and she was really impressive yesterday, I thought. And I know that people are thinking, oh, what, she just galloped, how do you know that? Well, she just had a look when she came out. I mean, she just had that look of class. You can see the ears pricked coming down the lane, moving beautifully. She jogged out here professionally, never turned a hair. I was very, very impressed with what I saw yesterday from Swiss Skydiver.
All right, well, let's switch gears from Swiss Skydiver to Speech, who was also on the main track at Churchill yesterday. Expecting to see her today. Let's take a look at her credentials by Mr. Speaker. I think a Mr. Speaker, I think a turf, but Speech certainly has proved herself on the main track, Scott, and no more impressive than she was in the Ashland. She's got that stalking style with some speed in front of her. She's going to make her move.
Yeah, she's going to not take quite the same amount of money as Swiss Skydiver and, of course, Gamine, but she should get the right trip. Based on pedigree, you would wonder if the 1 1/8 would be her scene, but she continues to move forward. I was very impressed with her effort in the Ashland, Joe. Speech is a major player. Don't discount her.
Much like her Michael McCarthy-trained stablemate Rushy, Speech got her first look at the Churchill Downs main track yesterday. And Brandon, there she is. Your impressions?
Yeah, didn't do a whole lot, kind of similar to Rushy, just kind of get a feel for the track in here, and kind of liked what I saw, just swishing the tail a couple of times, showing me that she's got maybe a little bit of sass to her like the good fillies do. And I thought she was fine out here yesterday, but I would expect to see more, and I hope to see more.
How exactly is Speech training since her career best effort in the Ashland Stakes? Well, we're going to take a look at that race, and then we'll find out from assistant trainer Justin Curran. But again, a good stalking style here, Scott, and she takes over in the Ashland, and she wins going away. She's been very consistent in her young career. She's battled Swiss Skydiver already, but she's coming into this race the right way.
She sure is, Joe, and she sat off a horse, Venetian Harbor, who I'm not sure wanted the 1 1/16. Maybe would prefer the cutback, but she did it the right way that day. She gave Gamine all she could handle, 3 back at Oaklawn Park, a filly I know you've been high on for a long time, and I'm coming around as well.
Yeah, we'll find out exactly how well she's doing since the Ashland from assistant trainer Justin Curran on the grounds here at Churchill Downs.
That was obviously a career best for her, and I think she's moved forward. Michael's very happy with her. She's shipped in here. She's doing extremely well. So originally the plan was to probably work on Saturday, with the weather coming in this weekend. It's probably have to move it up till Friday. I'd imagine all the horses Derby week will move up their works, so we can avoid this weather coming in.
The Oaks is a really, really good race, Scott. We talked about Gamine briefly. We'll talk more about her when she arrives. Swiss Skydiver, Speech, and Brad Cox is a talented pair as well.
Yeah, they're not going to take as much money as the others. If they should get the right trip in here. She Dares the Devil will need to move forward a little bit in terms of Brisnet speed ratings, whatever figures you look at. But she's been moving forward. She's beating kind of that second tier. Very impressive in the Indiana Oaks. She Dares the Devil coming into the race might have a step forward. Bonnie South, we shall see.
Let's take a look at She Dares the Devil's credentials. And Brad's done a great job managing her, putting her in spots where obviously, Scott, she's been dominant. Races like the Indiana Oaks, the Honeybee, and a conditioned allowance race here at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, she's 2 for 2 over this racetrack, Joe. And then if you look at the fantasy, don't get fooled in that race, losing by 13 lengths to Swiss Skydiver and Venetian Harbor. Had a bad trip that day. Like I said, we'll need to take a step forward to be competitive against this bunch, but it's certainly not out of the question.
Right, and we know she likes this racetrack, and here she is over the Churchill Downs main oval by Daredevil, the same stallion as Swiss Skydiver. And your impressions on She Dares the Devil, Brandon, a horse that you've gotten to see quite a bit.
Yeah, it's, really does come full circle in here. This horse broke the maiden impressively with Norm, ends up in California, now back with Brad and based here. So to be back in the Kentucky Oaks, you see how crazy racing can be sometimes. But thought she was a little aggressive in this drill. I mean, it's good to see that she's got good energy out of that work, that 6 furlong work where she had a nice finish. So we'll just keep an eye on her and see. You can see she actually ends up passing her stablemate Bonnie South here in just a little bit. But I do like the energy out there. I just want maybe her to settle just a little more, or just keep this momentum. If we start doing more than this, then I might be a little bit concerned.
She was a $100,000 weanling purchase, and then she RNA'd Keeneland as a yearling for $20,000. Then she was impressive early in her 2-year-old year and sold as for $280,000 as a Horses of All Racing Age entry in November, and obviously proven to be a bargain given the fact, Scott, that she has a great racing resume, and she's going to have some value as a broodmare moving forward.
Yeah, great purchase, and good job there by all the connections. And I think She Dares the Devil, Joe, could get the right trip in this race. There's no doubt there's going to be some speed in here. Florent Giroux, if he can relax in the mid-pack type spot, I'm not sure if she'll be good enough to win, but I think she may be able to pull off an underneath finish in this one.
Asking about the breeding as we go to some social media questions from B on Facebook about King Guillermo. There's been a lot of talk about this horse and the Venezuelan connection, same with Caracaro. But B's question is, where was King Guillermo bred? Bred right here in the Bluegrass State.
Yep, right in the Bluegrass State, so the connections might be Venezuelan, but Kentucky bred, blue blood.
Right, they purchased this horse actually privately out of the OBS sale when there was an RNA for $150,000. And again, talking about sales, Scott, there's a lot of different ways the horses can get to this point. They could be homebreds, which means they were bred by their owners. They can sell as a weanling, they can sell as a yearling, they can sell as a 2-year-old. And a lot of the fillies were purchased for $100,000 or less, showing you that you can get a good horse for a decent price.
Yeah, I mean, spending the big bucks gives you a better chance to get to a race like the Kentucky Derby or the Kentucky Oaks, but it doesn't guarantee anything, and we see each year some bargain basement shopping.
All right, we have Maggie on Twitter asking a question here. Which long shot in the Kentucky Derby do you think has the best chance of winning? Now, a lot of people are talking about, obviously, Tiz the Law, Art Collector, Honor AP as the big three, but of that next tier long shot, I'd say 15-1 or higher, Scott. Who's your best?
Yeah, those three are the most likely. I think Caracaro has the best of the long shot chances, maybe because he's just an up-and-coming sort. We haven't really seen the bottom of him. A lot of these horses we've seen a significant number of races. Caracaro hasn't done much wrong. Did finish second 2 races in Saratoga. Third start of the form cycle. I'm not saying I'm in love with his chances, but of the long shots, he's the one I like most.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That workout the other day on an off track was absolutely tremendous, and I don't know how much of it has to do with how well the horse is thriving right now, how much the horse likes an off track, or both. We've had off tracks the last 2 Kentucky Derbies. The odds are more in our favor that we won't this year, but you can't predict what Mother Nature's going to do.
Yeah, no doubt, and I think Art Collector, Tommy Drury, Brian Hernandez Jr., one set of connections that won't mind if we get a little bit of a rain.
And Terry from Facebook is asking about the weather here and the difference between a May Kentucky Derby and a September Kentucky Derby, and the potential for a hot day like today where the temperatures are in the low 90s today. Early forecast, very early forecast says mid-80s. That's still pretty warm. Some horses handle it better than others.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And it's interesting because normally when we get out here for the work shows, it's cold in the mornings. This time of year, a little bit warmer, a little muggy today. Nice day overall, but the weather will be different.
We love it here during Kentucky Derby week as Steve Asmussen is holding court with a couple of the riders and a trainer down there as well. We'll have Bob Baffert come into town, hopefully Todd Pletcher, and a lot of the big names over the course of the next several days. TwinSpires.com, Scott, has some great promotions. It's that time of year, and newly instituted in recent weeks, the expert picks, available on the app, available soon on the TwinSpires.com website. And one of our favorite handicappers is featured there.
Man, that guy is red hot this year in 2020. If you're not clicking on his picks on the app, you're doing something wrong. Ed doing all the good job with all the Kentucky racing. Jonathan Kitchen, Pete Fornatal, Ashton Malou, amongst others, doing a great job. Highly recommend checking out the expert picks.
We are looking forward to Oaks and Derby horses on the main track in just about 3 minutes from now, which gives us enough time to sneak in a very short break. Again, Art Collector expected to be on the main track this morning. Hopefully Swiss Skydiver's speech and a whole lot more. We'll see some horse flesh live and in person right after this.
With over 200 flavor notes to discover, every sip of Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show, and
so Joe, can you hear me?
Skydiver, this is interesting.
Yeah, Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brett,
so
what's going on?
Our spotter just noticed that, and maybe Kenny's trying to play some games up here. I don't know, but Swiss Skydiver has the Kentucky Derby towel on.
Can we find Kenny? I mean, this is this is interesting. You know, I wonder, and I'm guessing they probably gave him both saddle towels, Scott, right? Because, you know, they were talking about maybe running in the Derby. The recent talk, though, is Oaks and Preakness.
Yeah, I was surprised how quick they committed to the Oaks right after that impressive effort at Saratoga at the mile and a quarter. I thought for sure they would entertain the idea of the Kentucky Derby, Joe, and maybe they still are.
How's she look out there this morning, Brandon?
Looks just as good as yesterday. Just you know, when we talk about the class of an animal, yes, you see it on the racetrack, but sometimes you just see it in their frame, in their flesh when they come out, and that's what I see when Swiss Skydiver comes out. You can see those ears are pricked, and just a nice jog in there, and she just handles herself like she has that head up. You just kind of tell that she knows she's something special, and she's out here showing it.
Yeah, Dan on graphics following Kenny McPeak's lead there with the Kentucky Derby tag for Swiss Skydiver as King Guillermo struts onto the racetrack. And he's done a lot of different things here in recent weeks since arriving at Churchill Downs. He's had several published works, including a monster drill on Saturday. And Brandon, what are you looking for from him as he continues into this weekend, likely a maintenance drill in advance of the Kentucky Derby?
Yeah, I mean, after yesterday, who knows what he's going to do today? I mean, maybe he's going to blow out 3 ace, who knows? But, you know, I'm just looking for the same thing. I'm looking for, you know, horses are creatures of habit. We're looking for the same thing. We're looking for the good energy. Seems like they're kind of pressing on him, which they kind of need to do with him coming off of the layoff. So I expect to see more of that. If they back off and we start to see him kind of slow in his gallops, then that's going to make me kind of raise an eyebrow.
Sammy Camacho will be the rider. Will be his first Kentucky Derby mount. Miguel Main has been helping out Juan Carlos Avila with a lot of the serious work as far as a King Guillermo. We got to see that great GoPro video with Miguel aboard yesterday here on the show. And Scott, Ed is completely against King Guillermo. I really like the way he's trained. I like the way he's run when we've seen him run in his races. He's one of those horses that's going to be in that first flight. There really is authentic, and then 3 or 4 horses that want to be right behind. Art Collector, one of those. King Guillermo, one of those.
Yeah, I think the pace in this race is going to be contentious at the very least, Joe, and I'm concerned that King Guillermo might be a little bit hard to relax off the layoff in this spot. But I understand Ed's concerns with this one. I'm kind of back and forth on him, but it is a different Derby this year. I know coming into the May Derby, coming off a 4-month layoff would definitely be a concern, but maybe the freshening coming in as a little bit of an older horse will play a little differently.
Waiting to find out what Brad Cox and the Juddmonte decision will be on Bonnie South going into the Oaks, but She Dares the Devil will be one of the starters, winning her last 2 races by a combined 11 lengths, a mile and a 16th. Allowance race here at Churchill. She looked fantastic that day. And then a 5-length win in the Indiana Oaks. I mean, Brad has certainly, Brandon, kept her confidence level through the roof with those easy victories in her last couple of outings.
Yeah, and he's excellent at that, finding those spots. He's got the staff to be able to ship across the country or to the Midwest or wherever he needs to go to kind of cherry pick and build the confidence of these animals. And she's thriving right now. She feels good. You can see her on track, makes a very good appearance.
Attachment Raid, I believe, is the next horse we're going to take a look at, and there he is. And Scott, we talked about him earlier, the decision to be made between the Kentucky Derby and the Pate Mile. Derby's a great race. Pate Mile, also for 3-year-olds over the 1-turn mile, is going to be a deep race and a great betting race as well. And it's interesting because Brandon mentioned in the work didn't have the Derby saddle towel on, but today he does.
Yeah, they must be juggling the decision out quite a bit. This is a horse, as I mentioned earlier, that I thought was a 1-turn mile horse, but he did run real well on the Ellis Park Derby on a mile and an 1/8.
Lots of schooling going on here. The paddock jogs, gallops, works, and Max Player live, Brandon, in the starting gate.
Yeah, and I believe we're going to have some inside camera there maybe for tomorrow, but Steve Asmussen, just one of the best trainers out there we know, but the reason he's one of the best is because he does the little things, and that's taking even these older, more seasoned horses to the starting gate, getting them familiar with that gate again, whether it's Churchill or Saratoga or wherever, and just a little bit of gates going in here, bring him in the gate, back him out, let the starters get used to this horse as well. Remember, this horse was with Linda Rice before, first time here at Churchill, first time probably with this gate crew. So everybody kind of getting familiar with each other, and then he'll go ahead and and have his gallop.
Yeah, Brandon, will that be something that's typical, especially for the horses coming in from out of town, not only for them to get familiar with the gate, but for the gate crew to get familiar with them, because they got to load 20 in the starting gate in the Kentucky Derby?
Absolutely, and obviously when the horses that are based here year-round or most of the year, they're very familiar with, and depending on the trainer, they may or may not school, but most of the horses from out of town, I'm assuming, will go to the gate and just at least school once or twice. Some of the trainers that are based here will school their horses even though they are based here year-round.
Max Player, previously trained by Linda Rice, the connection sending him here to Churchill Downs under the care of Hall of Fame trainer Steve Asmussen for the Derby. And Scott, what a year for Steve. I mean, it's been a crazy year and a bad year for a lot of people, but for Steve, it hasn't been. 1,000 career stakes win earlier this year at the Fairgrounds. Took over from Dale Romans as all-time leading trainer here at Churchill Downs. He's chasing Dale Baird for all-time leading trainer in the history of the sport. And he's got a pretty nice mare in his barn by the name of Midnight Bisou.
Yeah, and on top of that, I feel like he wins every 2-year-old race I watch these days. But yeah, he's got Max Player now. Joe, this is a horse I think is very interesting, especially from an underneath perspective. We mentioned the potential of a contentious early pace. Max Player can definitely settle and definitely has the look to me of a horse that's going to relish the 1.25 miles, unlike maybe some of the others.
Not to mention Volatile, the Grade 1 winning sprinter for Steve Asmussen. And again, his son, Keith, making his debut as a jockey earlier this year and having some early success as a 21-year-old rider. Brandon, Max Player, again, a horse that is getting familiar with Churchill Downs. He's been here for several days now. He has had a work over the track, actually 2 works over the track. It's nice for, in this situation, the horse to get used to the racetrack, but the trainer to get used to the horse.
Exactly. And talked about it. I mean, Steve has probably been in this situation before, maybe not so much in the Derby, but other races where he gets a horse for the first time, getting to know them. But that's why he's so good. He really figures that out quickly and gets to know what this horse needs to be doing. Obviously, he doesn't have a ton of natural early speed in here, so just building up the fitness, reaching out well in his gallops, and you just want to try to bring in the best horse flesh that you can into the Derby.
Ricardo Santana Jr. will be aboard Max Player, his 6th Kentucky Derby mount for Ricardo, one of the most consistent riders on the circuit. Again, we are hoping to get a look at Art Collector at some point during this training session, which does have about 10 more minutes to it. But Max Player, he's got his neck bowed, Scott. He looks great out there. And again, Brandon mentioned it, no better trainer out there than Steve Asmussen. Still looking for his first Derby one, but he's won just about every other race.
Yeah, you just have to assume sooner or later, whether it's this year or not, Steve's going to get his first Derby, and he gets a high-quality animal here that, as I mentioned, the 1.25 miles should not be an issue. Did run third twice in a row to Tisdalaw in the Belmont and the Travers, so it may be difficult for him to turn the tables, but I think he's going to get the right trip on the first Saturday in September.
Speech for the second time here at Churchill Downs, out in the morning after arriving a couple of days ago for Michael McCarthy. And Scott, again, the big 2, you're talking about Gamine, a Swiss Skydiver. But, man, Speech almost beat Gamine at Oaklawn going 1 mile and a 16th. Why not at 1 mile and an 1/8?
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen how Speech will run at 1 mile and an 1/8. But what I really like most about her, other than the value she's going to offer with the other 2 likely to take much more money, is the trip she's going to get. You know Gamine's going to be out there. Swiss Skydiver likely to be right off of her. And Speech should be able to just sit the pocket or right off there, has the tactical speed to stay close, but can relax off the pace. I think Speech is dangerous to pull the minor upset.
Brandon, Speech out there with the pony, day 2 of her surroundings. You mentioned the tail swish yesterday. That's not an aggravated tail switch. That's a little bit more of an attitude tail swish, and like you said, something you like to see.
Yeah, and she only did it a couple of times. It was more of just almost announcing her presence is the kind of the way I would look at it. Right now she's in front of the 8th pole. Yesterday they came in front of the finish, so a little bit of a longer gallop today, like we talked about, wanting to do a little more, and that's what you want to see when you're evaluating these gallops, and that's just what trainers do. I mean, they're smart. They know that get a feel for the track the first day, a little bit of a short gallop. Let's do a longer gallop the next day, and then kind of build up into what could be maybe a local work.
Explain the role of the pony and the accompaniment of Speech and other horses on a day-to-day basis here at Churchill.
Yeah, I mean, certain horses do need the pony sometimes to come out just to keep them calm. Now, older horses that are more seasoned typically won't have that problem, but even some of the barns like a Steve Asmussen, they'll still bring out their older horses with the pony just to keep them settled, give them a little company, and especially when they're going to have maybe a major work or a big gallop, they're going to bring that pony out just to keep them settled. Really essential, in my opinion, for the babies, for the 2-year-olds more than some of the older horses, but it's just more about keeping the horse calm, keeping the horse in company. And just kind of wanting the horse to maybe save most of its energy for the work or the gallop itself. Now
you're seeing that tail flicking a little bit there. Does that mean she wants to do more?
I think she's just, having fun out there. The concern, if you're watching a tail swish, would be if it starts kind of swirling around like a helicopter and doesn't stop. So she only does it a couple of times. And everybody, every horse is an individual, and we got to just know that maybe that's just her.
What kind of price is she going to be in the Oaks, Scott?
I would think she's going to be every 6 to 1. I mean, I expect Amin to be probably even money or 4 to 5, and Swiss Skydiver to be, a little higher than that. And what you really have to like about Speech, Joe, is that she's coming in off a career best. These fillies tend to jump up quickly and get real good quick. Not that she wasn't very good earlier in her career, but she might be getting good at the right time.
Take a look at King Guillermo next. Again, the designated training time here for the Oaks and Derby horses. Still about 5 minutes to go. And there is King Guillermo. And Brandon, we only see what we see on our monitor. You've had an opportunity to kind of look down at the different horses out there. What have you seen from King Guillermo so far this morning?
Well, first, I just wanted to mention, too, guys, that Art Collector has not come out yet, and that might be by design. That might be they're coming out later, so we don't know that. Just wanted to let everybody know. But King Guillermo has jogged a mile at this point, and we'll just have to see what he does. I guess after yesterday popping the gate, nothing would really surprise me for him to maybe take off in an all-out sprint down the lane. Who knows? But we talked about the weather a little bit this weekend. Horses moving, trainers moving the horses' works up. This could just be a jog, and maybe they're going to plan on moving that work up, maybe breezing tomorrow. We'll just have to find out later from the trainer.
Yeah, we have heard, Scott, that there is some weather potentially coming in Saturday. A lot of the trainers scheduling their works for Friday anyways, especially the Oaks horses, with the race being a day before the Derby. But when the weather comes in, if you can predict, at least in your mind, that you think you might have an off track or a track that you don't necessarily want to train seriously over, you can move the works up. So we might be inundated tomorrow.
Yeah, bring it, Joe. I mean, definitely wouldn't mind seeing a bunch of horses work tomorrow. But, these top trainers very good at calling audibles when they need to, pulling the right strings. And hopefully we get a lot of action tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
King Guillermo, trained by Juan Carlos Avila and ridden by Sammy Camacho, but one of the most interesting stories involving this horse is the owner, Victor Martinez, who has bought 2 horses, at least leading up to King Guillermo, him being the second. First one didn't play out as well, obviously, as this horse, who, for many people who have owned horses in this game for a long time, is the horse of a lifetime. Great to see a high-profile baseball player who had 250 homers in his career that loves the game like this be in the limelight for the Derby.
Yeah, he was a great hitter in his day for 3 different AL teams, Joe, and now it's good to see him kind of as a spectator, as a fan. You could just see what the Derby means to him. A very, very good thing to see for Victor Martinez, who seems like a very good man.
Yeah, professional hitter, Victor Martinez. Now he kind of has to sit on the sidelines and watch another athlete perform. That being King Guillermo, who again, like Brandon mentioned, just jogging here today, very light day of training for him. But Brandon, we know what he's capable of. That workout from Saturday, 58 and change. We're not going to see that going into the Kentucky Derby. If you can just explain to the people out there, this final work this weekend, more of just a maintenance. The screws are tight. The hard work has been done already. Just more to maybe take a little bit of the edge off with a week towards the race.
Yeah, well, normally I would say that I would expect some maintenance move, but like I said, I don't know. That'll be okay. We do have our collector, just you can see on the screen there. But normally you would expect some type of maintenance work, but from these guys and with the layoff, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe let him stretch his legs a little more than that.
And we do believe that is Art Collector, who is surveying the scene out there, Tommy Drury said that he is a very curious horse, a very classy horse. I'm going to go back to you, Brandon. Art Collector just kind of looking around, watching the other horses around him train.
Yeah, first day here, and you can see Tommy there, and actually Brian is up in the saddle, just kind of the more experience you can have on this horse with the day-to-day operation, the better. Maybe, Brian didn't have anything going on, so they asked him to maybe galloping this morning. Just kind of taking it all in. He is going to do a little something, it looks like. So Brian just going to kind of ease him off, let him maybe walk over, and then we'll just have to see what the instructions are from Tommy Drury.
Yeah, very interesting that Brian would be up, because you don't normally see jockeys jog, Brandon, or gallop horses in the morning. Normally it's to do a little something more serious.
Yeah, it's very rare. First day on the track, I doubt he's going to do a whole lot. But like I said, it's just more about getting the feel for the horse, and maybe this was something Brian wanted to do. Maybe he wanted to get up and just kind of get familiar with this horse again. Obviously, he rides him in the races and works him a little bit, but every little thing that you can do up to a big race will help.
Again, Art Collector just arriving at Churchill Downs yesterday, but this is a horse scout that has a lot of experience on this track. I thought he was the most impressive winner on Stars of Tomorrow Day late last November as a 2-year-old, and then he reemerged here at Churchill this spring, won a 7-furlong race. We were all waiting to see what he would do in that 2-turn race, his first race around 2 turns on the main track, and man, after he won that the way he did, we knew that we had a serious racehorse as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, we definitely did, and Brian Hernandez Jr. started riding him for the first of his 5 straight wins that day. You mentioned the Stars of Tomorrow, Joe, and then he came back and was just super impressive visually against the likes of Toledo, going 1 turn. But what his biggest asset has been his tactical speed. It's been able to put him into the race, either on the lead when there's a slow pace or when he's best, or maybe just able to sit just off the pace. That would be my one question, though, with Art Collector, is he's gotten really favorable trips throughout this winning streak. What will happen if he doesn't break perfectly? There's a lot of horses in this field that have similar running styles to Art Collector. Will he be able to overcome any adversity?
Owner breeder Bruce Lunsford, 5 graded stakes winners, including the Millionaire Madcap Escapade, breaded campaign to Art Collector's Damn Distorted Legacy, Louisville entrepreneur and philanthropist who grew up near Turfway Park, ran for Kentucky Senator in 2008, Democratic candidate for governor in 2007, the runner-up in both of those races. Horse of a lifetime for Bruce, horse of a lifetime, Brandon, for Tommy Drury.
Yeah, and this horse, you mentioned it before, this horse was based here, but I've had some really good workouts on this horse as a 2-year-old, and he had that one bad race, and other than that, I mean, this horse has just trained well from the beginning, and just kind of looking at the PPs, it looked like the last work before the race was 6 days apart, and we're 6 days apart from the last breeze he just had, so I think it is worth paying attention to, maybe just to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't do anything in here. Workout style, maybe call an audible, but we'll see. Maybe it's just a jog, and Brian just wanted to get a leg up.
Yeah, I mean, Art Collector is the star of the show now. We've seen King Guillermo, Swiss Skydiver's Speech, etc. This is the likely co-second choice for the Kentucky Derby, and Tommy Drury, Scott, we've got so much respect for him as a trainer. He's been in this game 30 years, has not had as many as 100 starters in any single year until 2010, but he's won 21% of his races. Coming into today, $8.4 million in purses total in his career. Now he's got a horse like this that moving forward could potentially earn that much himself.
Yeah, it's great to see a guy like Tom Drury Jr. get a shot like this because, like you mentioned, Joe, he wins at such a high percentage, does such a great job with his stock, limited talent in many cases, gets a lot out of him. Now he has a horse that's going to be, in my opinion, the clear second choice in the Kentucky Derby.
First Kentucky Derby starter for Tommy Drury. The Bluegrass was the first graded stakes win of his 30-race career. And Brandon, back to you. Any indications as to what Art Collector might do?
Still kind of waiting to see, but he did stop at the finish line. Kind of most riders and horses, they'll stop either at the 8th pole, the finish line, and just kind of let the horse take everything in. It was a quick one, and now he's just kind of jogging around the turn. So we definitely want to keep an eye on him and see maybe what he's going to do. Nothing yet, but once he gets going, on the backside, we'll probably get a little more information.
Brian Hernandez Jr. surpassed 2,000 career wins this past winter at the fairgrounds. His younger brother Colby, also an accomplished rider, Clips Award-winning apprentice in 2004, Breeders' Cup Classic winner with Fort Larned in 2012. This will be his third Kentucky Derby mount. And Brandon, back to you.
Yeah, just started a little bit of a light gallop in here and made a very nice appearance down here in the flesh. I thought he was carrying good flesh, and you can see he's on the bridle a little bit, and Brian's got the hands low. One thing with the hands, watching the horses train, I always like to watch the hands of the jockey or the rider. The best ones, it seems like, to be able to get horses to relax, they keep those hands nice and low, and you can see Brian having a little bit of a hard time trying to keep him relaxed, but he's doing a good job. He's just trying to let him get something out of the gallop, but not too much.
Very interesting. And Scott, this horse, like you mentioned, has gotten some good trips, but I thought, in the bluegrass when he won, Brian just put on a fantastic ride. He wanted to let Swiss Skydiver get in front of him. He kind of sat third. There was that big long shot that was up in the fray early in that race. And once he got next to Swiss Skydiver and wore her down, and we've seen her win over 1.25 miles, he just went on with it. And I like the way he finishes his races off.
Yeah, he does finish his races off well, Joe. He did so in that Churchill race on June 13th, did so in the Ellis Park Derby. And Brian fits him very well. As you mentioned, he sat off Shivery and Swiss Skydiver that day in the bluegrass, and then he was able to take him to the lead in the Ellis Park Derby when he knew he had the best horse. I would be surprised if he was on the lead in the Kentucky Derby, but he won't be far off.
Tommy Drury running him in the Ellis Park Derby, Brandon, just thinking that it was a good idea to get another race of experience, another race of foundation. Didn't want to go into the 1.25 mile Kentucky Derby off just the previous race in the bluegrass, and this horse seems to be thriving right now.
Yeah, so far he's showing a lot of energy out here on the track. I like the way he's reaching out. You can see Brian with the hands low, and kind of just put him on the watch here to see if there was anything significant. But just a nice, easy gallop, but it's a little quick, and he's doing it well in here. Nothing really noteworthy on the clock, but just like the way he's striding out. I like the flesh that he displayed, and I like the energy as well.
Our collector coming out at the very end, interestingly enough, of the designated training time. As you can see, Brandon, other horses already out there because it is 7:50 in the morning and the track is open for training for everybody.
Yeah, and a little different maybe than over at Skylight, which is, if you're not familiar, in Goshen is a private training facility. Several of the trainers utilize, and then it's just an easy ship, whether they want to go to Keeneland or Churchill. Probably, well, I would say definitely a little more quiet than the action that's out here right now. Could be a little bit amped up with so many horses out here. You've got horses breezing in front of him. The track just opened up. We probably have, at my count right now, maybe about 75 horses out here, several of them breezing. So, maybe just a little bit more energetic than what he's used to, but I thought it was a really nice gallop and really liked what I saw from our collector.
Yeah, and Tommy Drury got this horse by accident. He runs Skylight Training Center. They do a lot of layups there. They also do a lot of rehab there. And Tommy's like a jack of all trades. He's a trainer, but he also does a lot of those other things. This horse was supposed to go to Rusty Arnold. He was there kind of as a pit stop into the remainder of his career and then moving forward as a 3-year-old. But after Tommy ran him at Churchill Downs and he won so impressively, Bruce said, keep him. You're doing a great job. Great for Tommy.
Yeah, it was a great job for Bruce to keep him, and it sounds like a classy move by Rusty Arnold as well to go along with that. He was going to have a great horse in his barn in our collector and allow Tommy to keep him. But a great story, local story, and one that's pretty hard to root against whether you're gambling on him or not.
And Brian Hernandez Jr., obviously one that we always root for as well. 2 previous mounts in the Derby, 2016 with Tom's Ready finished 12th, 2017 with McCracken finished 8th, and our collector, this is a horse that he wants to stay on. There was the question of whether or not he was going to ride Swiss Skydiver as well. Tyler Gaffleone picking up that mount, obviously, because those two might meet in the Preakness.
Yeah, if our collector wins and Swiss Skydiver runs well in the Kentucky Oaks, they could meet in Baltimore, but that's a big if. We'll see how it goes. But Brian Hernandez Jr. may only have 2 starts in the Kentucky Derby, but he's seasoned at riding in big races, one of the best at riding here at Churchill Downs now, so not too concerned about his lack of experience in the Derby, Joe.
Not often do you see a rivalry between a male horse and a female horse Art Collector in the Derby. We know that for sure. Swiss Skydiver, we're pretty sure is going in the Oaks, although Kenny McPeak throwing us a little bit of a wild card today with that saddle towel for the Derby. But if all goes well for both horses, no matter where they run next weekend, the Preakness could be on their agenda, and it's just really cool to see for the sport.
Yeah, we'll see with Art Collector, even if he wins the Derby, whether he goes to Baltimore or points to something else. But definitely seems like Swiss Skydiver, if she runs well, all roads lead to Baltimore.
And Brandon, Swiss Skydiver on the racetrack this morning. Again, your impressions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not coming out here with my mind made up or anything, but I'll say over the past couple of days, especially today, I thought she was the star of the show. Even with Art Collector coming out, he did look really good, but I'm just loving what I'm seeing from this filly. She looks fantastic. You can see those ears pricked coming down the lane. You can see that the left ear stays pretty much pricked the whole time. You watch the right ear, how it's kind of moving and flicking back and forth. That's saying that she's waiting on her command. She's such a smart filly. You can tell she's got a tremendous reach up front, and she just looks good in the flesh. I just thought she's one of those fillies, or even with the Oaks or the Derby horses, when she comes out, you just can't help but notice how good she looks.
A couple days ago, we had Greg Foley on the show, the trainer of Major Fed. I tried to bribe him with some Woodford bourbon, Woodford Reserve, whatever we could do to get him to bring Major Fed out at 7:30. Greg's an old school horseman. As you can see, the sun is barely up, and there's Major Fed been coming out, Scott, at 5:15 in the morning. The bribe didn't work like it did with Alex Foley.
Yeah, we appreciate the effort, Joe. We wanted to see him. But there you see Major Fed, and a horse that's gotten himself in a lot of trouble or been kind of unlucky at times. But what I think will be interesting if somehow he can work out his trip in the Kentucky Derby, because he's going to need to move forward to be competitive with the top horses in the Derby this year. But maybe he can be more prominently placed. Like I know Greg Foley has said all along, he has more speed than you think. If he can sit mid-pack and maybe finish, he could be a little bit of a surprise underneath.
A lot of turf in the pedigree with Claire Nation, Zapparini, May Lily as siblings to Major Fed, but this one by Go Zapper, more than proven on the main track, Brandon. And unlike Tommy Drury, who went to the Ellis Park Derby, Greg Foley decided to skip that race, hoping that he would have enough points to get in the Kentucky Derby, and he's going to go into the 1.25 mile race with a really fresh horse.
Yeah, he is, and by design, and the plan worked out. I know that they've been breezing the horse. It's hard to tell on the screen there. I know they've been breezing the horse without blinkers. They've been thinking about maybe taking them off for the race. I don't know if that decision's been made, but that's something a little bit of interesting to note as well.
Another horse that was out super early this morning. He's been coming out at 7:30, but today got up out of the hay early, and that's Necker Island. And Brandon, what do you see here with this horse that might be a little bit different than what we saw yesterday?
Well, I think with the weather, everybody's kind of, we saw King Guillermo come out and just jog. Same thing here, Necker Island just came out and jogged. And then if you notice on the two front feet, he's got what are called bell boots. And basically it's a protection for the feet so that the back hind doesn't come up and scrape the heels in the front or pull off the shoe in the front. Normally, most trainers will put those bell boots on the day before a race or the day before a workout. So inferring from what I'm seeing here, I'm assuming that Necker Island's going to move the work up and they're going to go tomorrow.
Again, a lot of horses maybe with their final works tomorrow with the weather. Saturday just a little bit iffy. A lot of horses planning to work tomorrow. Some might be moved up. I love horses. I love watching them train. I also like to dabble a little bit on the wagering side, Scott. And I know you do too. Twin Spires with some great promotions. We saw expert picks earlier. But if you're not on Twin Spires yet, you should join up because we're going to give you $200 for free, and that'll come in handy next week.
Definitely. I'll have my Twin Spires app fired up early and often, Joe, of Derby week. But if you need to sign up, get started, just use the code WORKS200. Start your $200 new player bonus today.
Looking very forward to firing up the Twin Spires account, as tomorrow is the opening day draw, Scott, September 1st. Tuesday is opening day, leading into the great Champions Day, obviously Tuesday, and then leading up to Thurby, Oaks Day, Kentucky Derby. Your final thought from today, your first day on the show, and you got to see several of the horses.
Yeah, it was great to be here, and I guess Art Collector, getting to see him towards the tail end of the workout session was nice to see. Brian Hernandez Jr. in the saddle. Really looking forward to seeing how he leads up to the race as one of the likely favorites in this year's Derby, Joe.
Brandon, you kind of teased what your favorite moment is earlier, talking about Swiss Skydiver being the star of the show, but you got to see some good stuff overall from your perch.
Yeah, I thought it was good to get some first local impressions from Art Collector, and like I said, Swiss Skydiver looked good. I'm really interested to see how what King Guillermo does tomorrow, considering they didn't do much with him today. I think tomorrow is going to be a big day for workouts, and I think we're going to see a lot more action.
Tis the Law is obviously the favorite, Scott, in the Kentucky Derby. The post position draw coming up on Tuesday of next week. Oaks draw on Monday. If for some reason Tis the Law gets buried in a real tricky post position down inside and Art Collector draws a favorable post, I might make Art Collector my public selection on top in the Kentucky Derby. I was really looking forward to seeing him here on the racetrack today. Got to see him, and his presence didn't disappoint.
No, absolutely not. And if he gets the right trip, there's no reason that he can't get the job done. I'm going to be looking to do the same thing potentially with Honor AP if Tis the Law gets buried down on the inside. But we shall see how it goes, but it was great to see Art Collector today.
Okay, again, so this is what's going to be going on over the course of the next several days. Tomorrow, Friday, we've heard a lot of trainers talk about works tomorrow. So we're going to be inundated with final works for a lot of the Oaks and the Derby horses that are here on the grounds. Nationally, a lot of the horses will get their final works at their current locations. We have more arrivals, Scott, starting Sunday. So we're going to be inundated with a fresh new look at some of the horses for both the Oaks and the Derby later this weekend. But tomorrow should be a big, big day and an important one for a lot of the horses.
Yeah, that final work is definitely going to be important. And then getting to see the New York horses ship in as well as the California horses. A lot of major players that we haven't seen quite yet, Joe.
Now, as far as the Oaks and Derby goes, we're looking forward to those draws. It looks like 10 horses for the Oaks, not as important draw-wise maybe as the Derby that should have upwards of 20.
Yeah, it's going to be important this year. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of horses with similar running styles in this year's Derby. Not a lot of true one-track speed horses, but a lot of horses with tactical speed where they draw in the gates, and that 20-horse gate is going to be very key, Joe.
Again, the Oaks draw 10:45 on Monday. The Kentucky Derby draw 10:45 on Tuesday. The opening day draw of the September meet at Churchill Downs will be tomorrow, Friday, for opening day Tuesday. That wraps it up for the morning workout show. Again, we will be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Enjoy the remainder of your Thursday, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning.